you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 326th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today we're going to talk some basketball, got some baseball news, we'll talk about the Week 1 rankings across spring sports, have some news with coaching changes, and then we have a guest, Maurice Allen. He's the head coach at South Paulding, and I'm really excited about what they're going to be able to accomplish in 2024. They had a very young team last year, battled in one of the toughest regions and schedules, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. They have a chance to make a big return this season, and they will be appearing in the Corky, Kell Dave Hunter Classic against Dunwoody. I think it will be a very intriguing matchup and an opportunity to watch one of the most exciting quarterbacks I've seen heading into this season. But let's start with some ranking news. So we had the lacrosse and soccer, they're coming out this week, and then I'm going to have baseball that will debut tomorrow. But real quick, I'm just going to go over the girls soccer, and you'll get a sense of what regions, what counties are going to be strong in each classification. In Class 7A, Buford is debuting at number 1, Harrison 2, North Gwinnett 3, you got Walton at 4. They made the finals last year, lost in a heartbreaker. Denmark, Norcross, Lambert, no surprise there. Peachtree Ridge, West Forsyth, and Milton. Right off the bat, you got Milton, West Forsyth, Lambert, and Denmark all in the same region, so that's the most stacked one. 4 teams in the top 10. Norcross, Peachtree Ridge, and North Gwinnett. That's going to be 3 teams competing in the same region. Should be a great season, and those teams will obviously play early on, and then we'll get some big matchups later. In Class 6A, Marist is debuting at number 1. They were tested this last week before the season started, had some big scrimmages. They scrimmaged Lassiter, which is number 5. So on the girls' side, you also have Pope and Allatoona representing Cobb County, and then BT comes in at number 10 to round that out. In Class 5A, Jefferson is number 1, McIntosh, and then watch out for Midtown this season. And you also have Chambly coming in at number 5, which, as you guys know, Chambly basically won it 2 years in a row. The first year they had an ineligible player, and then they ran the tables last year. Were one of the most dominant teams in the southeastern country, so having them at number 5, we will see how they respond to that. Class 4A, you got Westminster number 1, their big rival Lovett number 2, and North Oconee at number 3. You also have Pace Academy representing the private schools, and Stars Mill. In Class 3A, Oconee County is number 1, Wesleyan number 2, and watch out for Hebron Christian. They got the nod at number 10. Class 2A, Fellowship Christian. They were outstanding in boys and girls last season. Callaway at number 2, Mount Perrin at number 4. And then in Class A Division 1, you got Social Circle and Mount Vernon at the top. On the boys' side, It says 5 defending champs open the season as the top-ranked team in their respective class. You can see this full breakdown at scoreatl.com, and we'll see how the movement changes after this first week of action. Those will be out next Tuesday. But South Forsyth at 1, Peachtree Ridge at 2. You got Collins Hill, Campbell, and Mill Creek in the top 5. And then Lambert, Pebblebrook, Osborne, West Forsyth, and Milton. So no Walton in that one. We'll see if they can crack the top 10 at some point. In Class 6A, Johns Creek, River Ridge, Lassiter, and then St. Pius and Sprayberry round out the top 5. In Class 5A, Dalton, the defending champs, come in at number 1. Johnson Gainesville's number 1 in Class 4A. That's probably going to be the biggest soccer match of the season when Dalton squares off with Johnson Gainesville. And then Coahuila Creek is number 1 in Class 3A. Got Tacknall County topping the 2A. Paideia, Class A Division 1. And then Class A Division 2 is Georgia Military. So be sure to check that out, and then we'll track how it changes this next week. But I'm interested in some of these big matchups early on. I do think Chamblee, I don't know if I would have put them at number 5, but we'll see. They're going to have to prove it later in the season. Before I get into baseball, here's some of the storylines I want to get into on who I'm considering. I'm almost done completing the rankings, but in Class 7A, Lowndes obviously had a historic season last year. You thought Parkview was the team to beat. They looked unstoppable, but once they matched up with Lowndes, they did something that teams haven't done in multiple seasons, and that's sweep Parkview. Parkview has such a strong pitching rotation. They had a guy that was basically number 5 in the bullpen throw a no-hitter and also a perfect game that year. That's how deep they were at pitching. But Lowndes was able to beat them with an incredible senior class. So how much did they graduate, and will they be number 1? I'm going to have to make that decision, but they're coming off 28-12 season. Parkview was 32-8, so they had the better record, just got beat head-to-head. I do think those will be number 1 and number 2. It's just a question of whether Parkview's going to get the nod. You had North Paulding coming off a great season last year, but they lost a ton of talent. They made the semifinals, but were 23-12. North Gwinnett is going to be returning a bevy of guys, including Ryan Hall, their starting quarterback, who's an absolute baller. They were 31-8 last year. Mill Creek is probably going to get the top 10, maybe around that 7 range, and then you have Walton, Decula, and Denmark. Watch out for Denmark. That's a team that has made the state championship its first year in 4A, and then once they've come up to 7A, they have been arguably the best team out of Forsyth County, and that's saying a lot with teams like Lambert in that county as well. In Class 6A, it reminds me a lot of Lowndes and Parkview, because last year was almost a 2-team race, and that's going to be with Houston County and Pope. But you can never count out Blessed Trinity, Etowah, which made the finals 2 years back. You also have Woodstock, and then Tift County is probably the strongest South Georgia team in Class 6A. In Class 5A, I think Loganville is probably going to be the consensus number 1. They're one of the highest rated teams regardless of classification in the Max Preps polls, and also Georgia Dugout Preview. They were 31-8 last year. Cartersville is probably the other big contender, coming off a 32-4 season. Loganville was able to get the best of them. 5A is deep though. You got Decatur. Greenbrier is always the team that can make it to the semis, contend for a state title. And then in Class 4A, thought this was such an exciting aspect of last season. It was North Oconee and Cherokee Bluff. 2 years ago, North Oconee, they made it they won their first ever state title. They only lost one game the entire season, and it was against Alatoona outside of the class. And it was a game they were trailing by 1 run. It got rained out, and they called it, I think, in the 4th inning. So their only loss was that. Well, then this past year, Cherokee Bluff emerged as the team to beat, and it looks like they might be number 1 opening the season. But of course, they're going to be in the same crowded Region 8. You also have LaGrange, Stars Mill. They're going to be region rivals, and you can never count out Lovett or Holy Innocents and Benedictine. Class 3A, Harlem, Ringgold, and Savannah Christian, 3 very strong teams. Harlem was 35-1 last year. They lost, I think, their regular season finale, and then once they got to the playoffs, they just swept their way to the title. So I think Harlem, coming through last year, they're going to be number 1. In Class 2A, North Cobb Christian and Mount Perrin are the 2 top teams, but you have Fellowship Christian, Jeff Davis, and teams like Model and Appling County. Class A Division 1, Prince Avenue Christian made major noise on the baseball scene. We know them for football, but last year, 35-3 record, won the state title, and I think it's going to be between Prince Ave. You also have Irwin County, Kings Ridge, Metter, Bleckley County, and then Darlington open their season with a big win. And then in Class A Division 1, you have Charlton, this is Division 2, Charlton County, ECI, and then I think Sly County is going to be a team that I'm considering as a favorite. They have lost a lot of the guys that play football are also on this baseball team. They've lost 2 heartbreakers, and I think going out with the state title in baseball, it's going to be a very motivated, focused, and tough team that is close-knit. So I think the baseball season is going to be incredible. None of these classifications have one front runner. Even the most stacked teams we talked about, like Lowndes and Parkview, you're going to see very even matchups. And I was thinking about the depth in Class 6A and 5A specifically. I think 5A with Loganville and Cartersville might be the best. But let's look at this Kell team real quick, because I think they opened their season, they're actually 0-2, but they had to go to Walton last night and play the first ever game at Walton's new baseball facilities. And Walton was able to win that game. Let's check the final score of that. I think it was 6-0. So Kell, I think they're going to have a good season. They're in a tough region. GAC might be the favorite in it, but I do think Kell's more talented than your Cambridge's. North Springs is going to be good. Trying to think who else. Northview is going to be good as well. You got Centennial. But watch this next week how Kell responds, because they're 0-2, 6-1 loss to East Paulding, 6-0 to Walton. Now they have to play Harrison. That's going to be on Friday. They got Commerce and Milton on Saturday. Then they're going to run the Cobb County Gauntlet. They're a 5A Cobb team, but they're going to play Marietta and Campbell and then Mount Perrin Christian. So they're hitting all the best Cobb teams. We know how good Cobb County baseball is. They've got the big parks right next to Kell High School. That's where the Little League World Series is. It's where a lot of big-time tournaments are, and that's where these kids grew up playing. Baseball has travel leagues, similar to basketball with its AAU. A lot of these kids have been playing for a long time. And there's a guy on Kell's roster that I think is going to have a chance to do something special this season, and that's Tyler Bradford. And so I was looking into him. It's a guy that was a starting pitcher last year. He could throw the ball 86 miles per hour. He was ranked in the perfect game rankings as an 8 overall. That's someone that's projected to be a future MLB draft pick. A guy, I'd say that's the equivalent of being like a 4-star. However, he is uncommitted and waiting for an offer because last year he had to have Tommy John surgery, which that's one of the toughest. In football, I'd say it's tearing an ACL and coming back from that. In basketball, probably an Achilles injury, but when you're playing baseball and you have that Tommy John surgery, it does appear that it's happening to kids like younger and younger, but he went through the surgery, and this is interesting. So he's moved now to first base. So he's got an arm. He's a big-time prospect, but his baseball future is going to depend on him adapting to the first base position. So I think that's a great motivating factor for him. It's a tough situation that he was positioned to pitch at the next level. He probably could come back and try to pitch again, but I think the likelihood of re-injuring that throwing arm is probably high. So it's almost like forced by necessity. But we have the update. He was able to return and rehab and therapy in what does that say right there? I'm relieved to finally start hitting and throwing. Thankful for the doctor and his staff after a successful surgery, and my friends and family for supporting me during my recovery. Will be able to hit this fall and be 100% in January. So that was back in August, and it is great news because Tyler is back in the lineup. He played last night against Walton. So they didn't get the win. They're 0-2, but I think they're just getting started. Kell's had such an exciting year, whether it was basketball last season, winning both state titles, the football team, and I think baseball is going to be a very exciting year. And last year, obviously, they had Bryce Clavin, probably the best baseball recruit in the country, currently in the state of Georgia. So don't sleep on Kell. I think they're going to be just fine. 0-2 start, and I think Cobb County is going to have a really strong season. So best of luck to Tyler and the Longhorns. All right, so let's talk some coaching changes before we bring on Coach Allen. So the big one that happened this week was out of Wayne County, with Jabo Shaw leaving to take the job in South Carolina at Greenville. That's a team that was 10-4 last year. I think they lost in the finals. Coach Shaw obviously was one of the best coaches in Georgia these last few seasons. Took Wayne County from a 1-9 team to a semifinal team in a region that housed Burke County, New Hampstead, and Benedictine. So he got them not only to turn things around, but beat the best of the best. His defensive coordinator at Wayne County, that was pivotal because offensively they were outstanding with their rushing attack. They had Matt Fuller. He led the state pretty much in rushing last year. I think it was him and Jaden Duke Scott in 4A. But then defensively, multiple shutouts, one of the best defensive teams. They were up there with Thomas County Central and Coffee last year in terms of shutouts and limiting opponents. And that was Randy Crutchfield, was the defensive coordinator, and he just took the job at Haralson County, filling in for Scott Peavy. So Wayne County is going to look completely different next year. They lost Jabo Shaw, their defensive coordinator, went to Haralson County, and we're going to try to get Coach Crutchfield on the show this week because it was interesting. He took the Haralson County job, and then we saw Jabo Shaw leave after that. So I'm going to look into the situation, which one kind of came first, when did he know this opportunity came about, and then I think he's going to have a lot of success. So he was approved unanimously. This was back on January 31st. The Jabo Shaw news happened on Monday or Tuesday of this week, probably about 10 days later. So Crutchfield most recently served as defensive coordinator at Wayne County. They forced shutouts over quarterfinal and semifinal caliber teams this past season. He is a Hiram High School graduate, and he went to the University of West Georgia before earning his master's at the University of Texas of the Permian Basin. He also had local coaching stints at Temple and Villa Rica. And so that is big news. Haralson County fills their vacancy. Now the question is, who's going to step in at Wayne County? But let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break. We'll be joined by Coach Allen on the other side.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me. Can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands and proper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition-free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
All right, welcome back. So let's get to our guest right now, South Paulding's head coach, Maurice Allen. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
I'm blessed. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you bet. So, yeah, I had to get you on this week because obviously the news came out. You guys are coming in the Corky, Kell, Dave Hunter Classic, playing Dunwoody. And then Najee and I broke down Cade Wellington's film yesterday, and it was some of the best, just exciting quarterback play I've seen. So I think it's going to be a really fun year for you guys. What's the biggest change this offseason compared to last year?
I think the thing is we being a really young team, and we had a gauntlet of a schedule playing teams like Carrollton, Douglas County, Langston Hughes, Gainesville in the playoffs, and then even our non-region schedule was really tough. So I think, just having those young guys and getting that experience, we returned 3 offensive linemen, the quarterback, running back, 2 of his receivers, and then some key pieces on defense. So I just think that continuity of going through the fire last year, and things started to click as of late, the tail end of the season, and I think, we started to play really good football. So I think that's the biggest thing going into this year is just those key pieces that have some experience that are young that we can really build upon.
Absolutely. And then you talked about the schedule last year. We'll get into it because it was really tough. But really, South Paulding's been battling the top dogs year in and year out. The schedule before these last 2 years, you guys had Rome, Dalton, Carrollton, Douglas County as well. And then this past year, when you got Hughes, Douglas County, East Paulding, your rival. What was that like, just getting your kids to go up against teams week in and week out that are just representing Georgia as the best of the best?
Yeah, and we just challenge our kids to compete in everything they do in the classroom and on the field. So, we look at it as an honor just to be able to compete against some of the best programs in the state of Georgia. Being in one of the highest classifications in Georgia, we look at that as a challenge for our kids, and we just challenge them to rise to the occasion and try to be the best possible team possible.
For sure. And then Cade Wigginton, I think I said Wellington. Yep. Wigginton, your sophomore quarterback. What did you see from him last year, just having the start you guys did, just playing all those tough teams, but being able to get better and become that leader on the team where, as a coach, you guys are able to play much more competitively and kind of open up things offensively?
100%. I think with him early on in the season, he kind of tried to do a little too much at times. Had to settle in as a first-year starter, brand new offense, branching staff, learning what I want. And I think, it was just complete day. He took the coaching. We did extra, film studies and extra time together, and he really just bought in and was really coaching. He's really special. He's a true athlete at what he does, and he was all to take coaching, and I think he took his lumps early with that first region games, and then the back of the season he really started turning on, started to play a little bit more loose, a little bit more confident and comfortable, and had a lot of success. So I just look forward to him to continue to grow. He does everything right in the weight room and on the field, so I think just to have him coming back for the next 2 years, he'll really be able to solidify himself as a leader and one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Georgia.
For sure. And I think the thing that stood out on his film was it didn't look like he got panicked. And even when I think it was the Gainesville game, he's ducking out of the pass. He's stepping up in the pocket, and then just delivering the ball. So what game do you think last year did he kind of settle into the role and really become the player that we see right now?
I would probably say the Noonan game. We kind of just sat down and talked, and I told he ran a laser 4.7, and early in the year he didn't use his legs much. He always did a good job of extending plays, and I was like, hey man, you can run, you're athletic. I was like, start to use that, and that's a piece of your game. I was like, you don't have to drop back and throw this thing 40 times a game. I was like, use your legs and extend plays, and if it's not there, use it and run. So I think probably week 5, week 6, around that Noonan game, he really started to take off with the football. Extending plays, and when it wasn't there, he was willing to take off and run. And he's a tough kid. Grew up riding dirt bikes as a younger kid, so he's got some moxie and some toughness in him, where he's not afraid to lower his shoulder. He doesn't take the weight room lightly, and he's a tough kid.
Yep, and then we'll talk about the rest of the team. But another thing that stood out, his deep ball. I mean, he wasn't underthrowing any of those clutch throws he had in the big games like Gainesville, Hughes. So what is it about his work with the receivers that has gotten them just in sync and able to hit those tough throws?
Yeah, so for him, he's a guy that goes out, he does his, quarterback trainings, and he does all that. He always tries to bring his receivers with him, whether it be one or two or all of them. He schedules his own stuff with them to try to get on the same page. Like even in the offseason, they're scheduling days by themselves where they'll just go out and they'll just go through the route tree and try to get that timing down. So I try to make sure that he's an extension of our coaching staff, and that at the end of the day they got to go out and execute and they got to go out and play. So he's got to be able to direct traffic and I always tell him, KYP, know your personnel. You know who's a fast guy, you know who's a slow guy, you know who's a big body guy, you know who to put it on, who to take some off. So I was like, you just got to know your personnel just like we do as coaches, and you got to understand that you got to make your balls catchable for each of your receivers. So I think he does a great job with that and just trying to rally his guys around him.
Yep, and when I think of South Paulding, the last several seasons, you guys have had some of the most prolific running backs, outstanding rushing attacks. Now you got this really exciting, dynamic quarterback. What's your sense of what the offense is going to be able to accomplish this year?
Yeah, so we actually do return a running back, Albert McCoy, who rushed for 800 yards last year, does a good job on all levels. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. We can line him up at receiver. He can also run, in between the tackles. I think he'll have a big breakout year with the 3 offensive linemen that we return, and then some guys that got some reps as well. Jay Sanker being a big one. He's been putting on weight. Just weighed in yesterday at 271 pounds. He's 6'4", and he's only 15 years old. So he's been killing it in the weight room. And then I think with those 3 guys that got a lot of reps in the back and the quarterback, I think we'll be able to do a lot of special things on offense, just being able to actually control the line of scrimmage. And that's what we've kind of emphasized this whole offseason is, hey, we're going to get as big and strong as we can, and we're just going to be able to control the line of scrimmage week in and week out on both the offensive and defensive line.
What did you sense from the team last year? Just once the season was over, you guys obviously improved. You guys knew you were young. Just what did you sense from them, just confidence-wise, heading into this next season, what their goals were going to be?
I think we probably played our best game against Gainesville. There was 3 or 4 plays that broke that game open, and Gainesville ended up pulling away and winning. That's a great football program and a great team. But I just think the energy, they felt they were in the game. They knew we were there. We applied pressure. I think we had scored the most points on Gainesville all year up until that point. So, that gave our entire sideline, our coaching staff, and our fan base, our community, we look around and be like, hey, he's coming back. You look around and we played so many young guys this year, that for the next 2 years, they're just going to continue to be around. They're going to continue to be staples in our program and do things the right way. And then I will say, just the aspect, we're working as hard as we can in the weight room. It feels like a brand new team. It feels like everybody's, bought into what we're preaching and what we're doing. And, we can start to see bodies transform. People are starting to put on weight, and you can start to see different muscles show up. So I think, we're just trying to win this phase of our offseason and really get after in the weight room and compete in everything we do. So then it translates when we get into putting the pads on.
Yep, and bringing energy to the program, that's a goal you set out. That's something you stress the importance of. So how have you guys been able to, since you first arrived, just build that energy as a program and just have it day in and day out?
Yeah, I think, it starts with the coaching staff, and I've got an amazing group of guys that I've been able to bring on here. And I think, just being consistent, and I think that's the biggest thing that these kids needed. They've had some turnover with, head coaching changes, and I think they just need a constant in there, a positive mindset from the coaching staff, that we're just going to try to push you to be your best. We're going to be hard on you. We're going to ride you hard, but we're also going to have a lot of fun. I believe in, doing all the team building activities that we can. We take our kids to the FCA team camp where we can get away. We do our lock-ins where we'll stay the night at the school. We're just trying to bond as a team, and we try to take those opportunities and run and just understand that it's a little bit bigger, or it's a lot bigger than just football. And we're trying to build those relationships so that our kids are ready to play. And I think, things like social media, I pride myself in the branding and social media graphics and stuff. The kids love that type of stuff, the hype videos and, the uniforms. Like I tell the kids, I'm going to try to get you the best that you guys deserve, but we've got to work hard for it. Like we're going to sweat and we're going to strain and we're going to be mentally and physically tough. But at the end of the day, I want it to be fun. And, I want to have all the bells and whistles and I want to look good while we do it. So I think, they take that approach like, hey, there's a time for fun and there's a time for work. And, we try to do a good job of getting that done here.
And then knowing your personnel heading into this upcoming season a little better, is there anything this offseason that's going to be different with maybe a padded camp or any changes to the overall schedule?
Nothing too crazy. We are going to do padded camp with North Atlanta. I know that just got approved. North Atlanta is a really good program, and they've got some really good programs coming out of that. I think Carver's going to be there and a couple others. So I think that would be a good camp for us to go and kind of see where we're at. North Atlanta did a really good job last year. Carver's always competitive, so just getting around and getting to compete with those guys will be huge. I know we're going to do the Georgia Tech 7-on-7 again. We're going to do the Archer 7-on-7, and I think we're just going to continue to try to harp on controlling the line of scrimmage. I want to see us, the weight room, translate to the field. Last year, like I said, we were really young. We weren't very strong. We had the bodies, and we looked apart, but there just wasn't a lot of movement. So now we're really trying to solidify and really try to emphasize controlling the line of scrimmage and movement at the point of attack and, getting knocked back at the defensive line and just being physical. And I think that's going to be the key to success for us is we're going to have to be really physical. We've got athletes that can run, but, we've got to be able to win up front, and that's where it's going to be emphasized for us as a coaching staff.
And then you mentioned the 7-on-7s. How do you keep the offensive linemen, defensive linemen active throughout the season when maybe the 7-on-7s, you guys have a bunch of those scheduled, but who's overseeing the linemen, making sure they're working on those precise drills?
Yeah, so I've got an amazing offensive line coach and a defensive line coach. My offensive coordinator, Dontavius Lawson, he was with me for 4 years at Pebblebrook, has done an amazing job with those guys. So him and my defensive line coaches, Bridger West, who just came from UTEP, was a defensive GA there, and then Mike Young and Craig Young. They do a job of keeping those guys included, and they're going to do their one-on-ones, and they're going to do their 2-on-2s, and they're going to do their film installs and meetings together, and just to try to keep those guys engaged. And we've actually looked into trying to host a big man camp or attending a big man camp just to keep those guys engaged. And I think the padded camp is something that they really enjoy. And now all the linemen are asking me to, we put all our offensive linemen through center school. So they're all snapping like, hey, coach, can I go snap at this 7-on-7? So I've got 5 or 6 offensive linemen that want to go snap with us. So, just trying to keep them engaged and keep them working all year. But I think my offensive line coach and my defensive line coach, they do an amazing job with that.
And then what players this offseason are getting a lot of recruiting attention and trying to get that process moving along and before the season starts?
Yeah, so I think we've got some key pieces. Cade Wigington, being one, the quarterback, he's starting to pick up a little steam. He's got the intangibles. Jay Sanker, who just received his first Division I scholarship from Charlotte, or offer from Charlotte. I think he'll be a big one that blows up shortly. And then on the defense side of the ball, we have a defensive end that is really athletic, does a really good job of bending the edge. His name is Jaquan Harris. I think he's posed for a breakout junior year. And then we have an inside linebacker that played last year. Both of his brothers, one's playing at Jacksonville State, and the other one just signed to go play at Kennesaw State. And he played for us last year as a true freshman at inside linebacker. So I think that'd be a kid to watch. He's already 6'1", 220 pounds. So I think he's going to be, at the end of said and done, he's going to be a 4-year varsity starter and have a lot of games under his belt.
And then your running back, Albert McCoy, the leading returning back. What are you expecting from him just this offseason before a senior year where he has a great opportunity?
I think last year, he split time with a couple other backs. I think he's going to be the featured back this year. So I think if he did 800 yards by splitting the load with a couple other backs, and for him to be the guy this year, I think he's took the approach in the weight room and took that leadership role and really been getting after it and holding guys accountable in the weight room. He's running track. He's just been trying to get win the offseason for him, and I think he'll have a breakout year. I know he's got high goals for himself. He said he wants to be a 1,000-yard back. He said he wants to, win the region, and he wants to go down, first team all region. So he said he's got big aspirations and big goals, and we're going to try to make sure he sees that through. And I think with those offensive linemen returning, I think he's definitely able to do it.
Yep, and then I think Paulding County, not just you guys, but there's going to be a lot of great teams this year. I think it's going to be a big year for the entire county. But what do you think about opening the season in the Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic, a doubleheader? You got Prince Ave and West Forsyth after you guys, but what do you think that's going to be like just being in that environment to open the season?
I just think that's going to be an amazing experience for our school, our community, and our boys, just to get that exposure and to be able to play on that stage. I think it's an amazing opportunity and an amazing experience. Dunwoody's done an amazing job looking at what they've done this past year and watching film on them. They've got a great program over there, and I think that they're going to be a really good opponent for us to kick off the season with and kind of see everything come together and see where we kind of measure up against another good program in the state of Georgia. So I just look for that opportunity to kind of put our community, our boys, and our program on the national spotlight, and just get as much exposure as we can, and then hopefully compete.
For sure. And then who are you guys scrimmaging before the opener?
We are going to scrimmage Hiram High School. It will be here on August 2nd at 7:30 p.m.
All right.
And then we're going to scrimmage Chapel Hill.
Okay. And then your region, you guys have seven teams, so you'll have 4 non-region games. You got Dunwoody to open it. Who else is on that non-region?
We've got Altoona and North Paulding.
Altoona and North Paulding. All right, so North Paulding, that's been quite a rivalry with you guys. So who is the team that maybe last year kind of left the worst taste in your mouth that your team's going to be bulletin board material just trying to avenge that loss?
Yeah, I think the North Paulding game. I think, our kids they really want to for the first time in school history, beat North Paulding. That's a great program. Coach Stark does an amazing job, and those boys come to play every week. But I just think in the school's history since 2006, they've never beat North Paulding. I think last year we were in the fourth quarter, and it was 14-7 with 9 minutes left on the clock, and we went for it on 4th down and threw a back shoulder fade and went down at the 1, and then the very next play they ripped off a 99-yard run, and it kind of sucked the life out of us. But we played them really tough, and we had some opportunities, just didn't capitalize early on the season. So I think that's going to be a huge one for us, and I think the boys will be ready for it, and I think it'll be a great opportunity to, like I said, again, compete against an amazing team, amazing program that Coach Stark has put together.
For sure. No, that's going to be really fun. And we covered the North Paulding Harrison game last season. They had a pretty exciting little quarterback that I think was leading all the classifications for several weeks. Last question.
He throws an amazing post ball.
Yeah, no, he was killing it. He was on fire, and it was in the rain too. It didn't affect him at all. But defensively, what are the goals for that group this year, and who are you expecting to be the leader just kind of at each level?
Yeah, so I think, defensively they took tremendous strides last year. They decreased the point total by more than 10 points a game. I think, like I already said, Jaquan Harris will be a big one for us on the defensive line, as well as Tanner Harper, who came on late and had a really good season. He's an interior defensive lineman for us. The linebacker position would be Joakim Gouda, who was the freshman linebacker that returns. He's got big shoes to fill, with some of his counterparts leaving, but I think he'll be that guy that anchors us in the middle with a ton of experience. And then in the secondary, Jermaine Tyler, who was our safety, who does a great job, gets us aligned in the back end. He's long and athletic, and he can run, and I think he'll be a huge piece for us to get us to that next level.
Yeah, and off the top of your head, how many starters did you guys lose from last year?
We lost 5 on defense, and then we lost 4 on offense.
And do you remember what it was the year before you got there?
Oh, it was a ton. I don't know off the top of my head. I have it in my notebook, but I don't have it off the top of my head. But I know, obviously, Case and Wiseman, quarterback, Jamarian Wilcox, running back, Sanker, Isaac Keene, Amir Scaver. They had some guys that we lost that, coming into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we pretty much started, I think we had 3 returning starters on offense this year. And then I think on defense we had 4 returning starters on defense, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And then how many freshmen and sophomores saw significant time last year?
Pretty much our entire sophomore class. There was a ton of kids that got a ton of reps for us. I would say probably 25 sophomores and maybe 5 freshmen got significant playing time or opportunities to play.
That's awesome. All right, well, yeah, I had a feeling you guys were going to be returning a lot because I knew you guys were super young last year, but it looks like you guys are going to be battle tested and ready to have fun in 2024. So thank you so much for coming on, Coach Allen. Look forward to it, and we'll see you soon.
All right, I appreciate you guys. Have a blessed day.
Yep, you bet. All right, so there goes Coach Allen. And sure enough, I knew the numbers were going to be significant, but when that entire sophomore class stepped in that region, that gauntlet of opponents, and then visibly got better as the season went on. They started 0-5. He pointed to the Noonan game, and that was the game that put them at 0-5, put them 0-2 in the region. They turned around. They got 3 straight victories to secure a playoff spot. That was Paulding County, New Manchester, and then Alexander. 2 of those games were shutouts. The New Manchester won 24-12, and then they played Hughes and Douglas County to close it out. Got the number 4 seed. Had to go to undefeated Gainesville, and he said that was a very tight game, probably the best one they played all season. And then Gainesville pulled away at the end with Gavin Hall 46-27. But Najee and I broke down the tape yesterday of their quarterback, and a lot of those plays were in the Gainesville game. I think if you go back and watch yesterday's episode, you'll be very impressed. So I'm glad we got to look into that, and it's just going to be one of the great matchups to kick off this season on Thursday in the Corky Kell Classic. And right after that, you got West Forsyth and Prince Avenue Christian. That's going to be a huge Thursday, probably the best Thursday matchups we have had. But let's go ahead. We'll take one more quick break, close it out with some basketball on the other side.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me, can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands, improper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition-free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
All right, welcome back. So let's close it out with some basketball updates with the region tournament. So I'm going to Region 5 in Class 7A. This is a very intriguing region. It has Walton in it, Wheeler, Cherokee, Osborne, and last night was a crucial win for Cherokee, a team that made the finals last year. They had to survive overtime against North Cobb to advance to the playoffs. So they have punched their ticket. They're going to play Wheeler on Thursday. It'll be tomorrow night at 8:30, and the winner of that will go to the region championship. So let's look at how they pulled off this season-saving overtime victory last night against North Cobb. So it was a 78-75 overtime victory. This was held at Cherokee High School. It says after scoring the first basket of the game to go up 2-0, Cherokee would not lead again until there were fewer than 10 minutes remaining in overtime. Cherokee is 13-13 this season after last year's historic run to the finals. Thanks to heroics from freshman guard Braylon Luster, the defending state runner-up survived to secure a spot in the playoffs. With the game tied 75-75, Luster delivered the eventual game-winning three-pointer. He finished with 24 points and led all scorers. Hayden Darko finished with 19, Lawrence Sanford 14, and Tanner Savasier had 10. And this is from Joe Veman, Cherokee's coach, said, Braylon has been special all year long, but Tuesday he was especially good. For a kid who's a ninth grader, he's going to be a really good player for us. Cherokee will face Wheeler in the region semis on Thursday. The teams met as recently as last Friday when Wheeler found a way to win 79-75. And Coach Luster said, we had a good game against Wheeler last time. We just have to keep pushing and keep working. North Cobb, this is back to the game, and Cherokee having to claw their way back. They were up 15-5. They later led 41-37 at the half. So they were exposing Cherokee's defense in that matchup, but then the clutch scoring from the freshman. And then North Cobb looked to regain its advantage in the third behind Malik Carr to finish with 20 points and Marvin Mena, who added 10. After Cherokee pulled within 1 point at the start of the period, North Cobb eventually went up again by double digits, 60-50, heading into the fourth quarter. Cherokee was down 68-61 with 4 minutes left, and then closed regulation on a 9-2 run, capped off by Luster's three-pointer with 10 seconds on the clock. So he also got the bucket to send them into overtime. So that's just clutch right there. Season on the line, and I think being in that situation could benefit Cherokee, given that momentum heading into a big matchup against Wheeler. And then it looks like Walton's going to play Osborne once again, and that'll be on Thursday. In Class 6A, Pope, a team that I have talked about a bunch. They've been in the top 10. They've come out of a tough region as well, but they beat Alpharetta last night, and that was a 57-53 victory. Their defense has been key all season long. When they played Lassiter a couple weeks ago, they jumped out to a 19-0 lead. Defense for Pope, and we'll see if they can ride that formula into a region title. And their next matchup is going to be, this is Region 7. That's going to be the Region 7 championships this Friday. They're going to play Sprayberry, and then after Alpharetta lost to Pope, they're now going to play Blessed Trinity in the consolation. Blessed Trinity lost a heartbreaker last night, 63-61 to Sprayberry. So Alpharetta and BT should be a great matchup. Same with Pope and Sprayberry. In Region 8, last night Gainesville and Lanier both advanced to the semifinals. Now Lanier is going to play number 1 seed Shiloh, who got a bye, and then Habersham Central, who also got a bye. Let's look at the tonight you're going to have the semis in Region 1. It's going to be Valdosta and Lowndes, and then number 1 seed Camden against Colquitt County, who punched its ticket into the playoffs with a win over Richmond Hill this past weekend. And then you're going to have tomorrow night a region championship between Pebblebrook and Campbell in Region 2. The consolation will be Carrollton against Westlake. Westlake was beat by Pebblebrook last night 81-50. Carrollton lost to Campbell by 1 point, 48-47. So Carrollton and Westlake, Pebblebrook and Campbell. Tonight in Region 3, McEachern and Harrison, and then Hillgrove and Marietta. The winners go to the championships. In Region 4, tonight is the region title. It's going to be Grayson against Newton at 7:30. Archer and Brookwood in the consolation at 4:30. We mentioned Region 5. That's going to be Wheeler, Cherokee, Walton, Osborne. And then Region 6, tomorrow night, Milton and Lambert for the region title, West Forsyth and South Forsyth for the consolation. West Forsyth, I thought they were one of the hottest teams in 7A a week ago. They are definitely in a slump right now. They fell to Lambert last night 55-44. And then Milton, you look at their record, it's not the best this year, but they have won a ton of big matchups, and they topped South Forsyth 52-50 last night. So Milton and Lambert for the Region 6 title will be tomorrow night. Then tonight, Region 7, will have Norcross and Peachtree Ridge squaring off for the region championship. Norcross knocked Peachtree Ridge out of the top 10 last week with a 3-point victory, and we will see if Peachtree Ridge is able to avenge that. Despite losing to Norcross, Peachtree Ridge was the number 1 seed in the region tournament, but now Norcross has a chance to top them once again and get the top seed in the tournament. In Region 8, it's going to be tonight, Buford and Mountain View for the Region 8 Boys Championship. On the girls' side in Class 7A real quick, tomorrow night, Lowndes and Colquitt for the region title in Region 1. Tomorrow night, also Region 2, Carrollton against Campbell. Region 3 is still in the semis. That will be tonight. North Paulding and Hillgrove will play. McEachern and Marietta will play as well. I think Marietta, if I remember, they beat McEachern on the girls' side for the first time, I think in over 20 years this season. So that will be an interesting rematch. That's going to be tonight at 4 o'clock. In Region 4, same as the boys, going to be Grayson and Newton tonight for the region title. In Region 5, Walton and North Cobb will square off. Walton's coming off a 57-12 win last night over Kennesaw Mountain. And then Cherokee and Wheeler are going to play. The winners will go to the championship, losers to the consolation. In Region 6, Milton and Lambert, boys and girls, for the title. That would be Thursday. Region 7, Norcross and North Gwinnett for the region title. That will be tonight at 6:30. And then Discovery and Duluth for the number 3 and 4 seed. And then Region 8, you got Buford and Mill Creek for the region title tonight, and then Decula and Central Gwinnett for the consolation. So there's going to be a lot of seeds set in stone tonight, so be sure to go to scoreatl.com. We'll have those updated, and you will know the playoff brackets heading into the weekend. I think the final games are this Friday. Didn't see too many Saturday ones, so it should come to a close before this week is up. and then the playoffs will start late next week, and we will be off to the races. Real quick in Class 6A, let's see if there's any big region championships tonight. Region 1's Friday, Region 2's Friday, 3's Friday. Looks like Region 5 is going to be on Saturday. Region 6 is Friday, 7's Friday, and 8's Friday. So if you're interested in following the games tonight, focus on 7A. That's the majority of them. And then the bigger classifications in terms of total amount of teams, those are going to be on Friday. So really, Class 7A is the only one that is playing a bunch of its championships tonight. The rest will be later on this week. Same with 5A. You got Friday championships in every single region except Region 5 is going to be on Saturday. So we'll have that updated, and we'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. I'll be back on Friday. I'm going to try to get Haralson County's new head coach on, as well as Harrison. And, of course, we'll have all the updated brackets for you. And be sure to check out the Week 1 spring rankings. I will have the baseball one posted tomorrow at noon. So thank you so much for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And we'll see you then.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.